Hello, everyone. My name is Anziek Leentjes. Welcome on behalf of TU Delft Learning for Life. A very warm welcome to our webinar, Sustainability in Practice. And in the next hour, you will be introduced to how you can drive your organization towards sustainability. And this webinar is aimed to be interactive, so please raise your questions in the Q&A. We will try to answer as many questions as we can during the webinar. In the session, you will be muted, and this session will also be recorded. So please take a note of that. Andy, welcome to you as well. Please
Thank you.
Lead us and introduce yourself.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Angelique. Then maybe I will go back one slide just to shortly introduce myself. I'm professor here at the TU Delft, Delft University of Technology, and I've been sustainability coordinator for 5 years now. And actually, I call it now in extra time because I don't have a successor yet. But based on that, I will do this webinar and the MOOC that I will introduce to you. I can't see you, so I'm very sorry, but I'm going to present against a screen that I see myself. So this is what Angelique already told you. What I want to start with is actually a quote that we have been using over the last few years. And it says, a better environment starts within your own circle of influence. And your circle of influence is larger than you think. It's not just your personal life, but it's also where you work, where you have leisure, where you travel, people on stage that you can attain and convince about what you need to change. Oh, and I need to start with with my journey started, and that was on campus when I was giving a campus course called Zero Energy Design, teaching students how to design zero energy buildings. And so I had been teaching them on how to approach building design and technology for a couple of years. And then I thought actually the best way to show what you mean to do is actually measure yourself and see how that changes. And that became part of my lectures there. So I showed simply what the measurements were beforehand in my house and how this changed over time due to changes I made to the technology or to the building design or in the way I was living. And from the building itself, I expanded this analysis to more aspects, like the way I travel, the food I ate, and especially, well, the things that you do outside your house, buying stuff and so on, that played an important role. Looked at what I was doing while I was working. So I'm part of a university, and you can't say, well, the university needs to take care of themselves because the university is nobody. It's basically the people that live and work there, students. And these were the emissions that I could allocate to myself, just being one small part of sustainability and being part of the university there. So this gave me an overview of what I emit throughout the years, and I did that throughout these years, 9 years in sequence. I measured myself, and I was doing quite well compared to the average Dutchman, if I say so. And especially the house went down a lot. But what I forgot, and a student asked for that, was what you see now. This is simply what I needed to do to travel for my work. I was invited a lot for conferences, exchange projects, European projects, in destinations that were not always attainable by train or bus or car. So I had to fly a lot. This led actually to an enormous emission of carbon emissions in 2018, and I felt really bad about this. So I decided to compensate for it by purchasing a carbon killer certificate for these 12 tons of CO2 that I emitted for flying. And what they do, or what they did, I should say, because they are off the market right now, is that they purchase certificates, CO2 certificates in the EU from the industry, and they destroy them. Which means basically that the industry in Europe needs to do their utter best to actually reduce those carbon emissions because they are not allowed anymore. So it's not really my compensation, but it's a compensation of CO2 emissions in Europe, what I did. And maybe we should compensate by planting trees, and that happens a lot. So I made a little film about this, and I want to show that to you, for which I need to stop sharing my screen for a moment, and I will show the video as a nice startup for this webinar. I'll go to the screen. Wait a minute. Share. Where is it? Yeah. Okay, there we go. It has English subtitles, although it's in Dutch. But I hope the English speaker can follow.
Pap, pap.
Ja.
Dit is toch geen tulpenboom? Die neemt het beste CO2 op.
Ja, maar die had het niet meer, schat. Maar we hebben een wilg. Die doet het ook goed, toch?
Na de zilver, esdoorn en eik, ja.
Ik heb dat tegen papa gezegd.
Ja.
Toen we begrepen hoe hard het gaat met de klimaatverandering, heb ik mijn ouders overtuigd dat we onze uitstoot moeten gaan compenseren met bomen.
Zo. Reis in Mallorca gecompenseerd.
Ik vrees van niet, pap. We hebben daarvoor zeker nog een dubbele nodig.
Dubbele. Dubbele.
En we moeten ook nog onze stookkosten, spullen en eten compenseren. En kleding ook. En ja, jouw auto.
De auto.
Ja, jouw auto. Om de CO2-uitstoot van ons gezin te compenseren, hebben we wel 6 of 7 voetbalvelden nodig. We moesten dus verder gaan. Het kostte pa en ma wat moeite, maar na hard werk hadden we een aantal hectare volgeplant.
Weerman.
Zeg, hoe kan het dat mijn tuin ineens vol met bomen staat?
Ja, dat waren wij.
Ja, dat waren jullie, ja.
Want wij willen onze CO2-uitstoot compenseren. Want Sam en ik willen namelijk, als wij groot zijn, ook nog een leefbare aarde. En als u wil dat uw huis niet overstroomt, moet u ook meedoen.
Wijsneus. Maar hoe kan ik dat doen als mijn tuin nu al vol staat met bomen?
Nou, misschien kunt u die parkeerplaatsen volzetten. Buurman.
Was dit de timing? Er hing blijkbaar iets in de lucht. Want op een of andere manier wisten we heel makkelijk iedereen te overtuigen om mee te doen. In de stad. In het hele land.
Staat Nederland inmiddels helemaal.
Bijna elke vierkante meter werd gebruikt. Maar het was nog niet genoeg. Om voor iedereen CO2 te kunnen compenseren, zou Nederland 5 keer zo groot moeten zijn. En dus hadden we ook de grond van België en Duitsland nodig.
Meer of minder gronden?
En toen viel het mis.
Explosieve mensen.
Pap,
Ja.
ik heb dus wat sommetjes gemaakt, hè. Blijkt, dit hier is eigenlijk helemaal niet nodig. Ja, want we moeten onze CO2-uitstoot verminderen. En dan hebben we ook veel minder bomen nodig. We waren misschien wat doorgeschoten. En gelukkig zag iedereen dat ook in. We konden terug naar maar 2 voetbalvelden. Door zuiniger te zijn met de energie, door minder te kopen, door plantaardig te eten en door minder vaak en ver te reizen.
Proost, schatje.
Proost. Pap, wanneer mag ik nou voor een nieuwe smartphone?
4,2 jaar.
Over 4,2 jaar. Nog even wachten, jongen.
Ja, maar tot je hoort wanneer je eindelijk naar Thailand mag.
Over 7,8 jaar, toch, Sophie?
Wie heeft Thailand nodig als je dit hebt?
Hmm.
Hè? Ah. Oh, vraag even of ze worstjes hebben.
Vegetarisch, hè, schat?
Vegetarisch, ja.
Volgens mij hebben ze alleen maar hertenbiefstuk.
Oh, lekker.
Pap.
Okay, that was a short intermezzo of the film we made, and that won a prize last week, so that's quite nice. I'm going back to my presentation, because what we wanted to show, of course, is that if you compensate your emissions without actually trying to reduce them beforehand, you need enormous amounts of space. And for instance, for a Dutch household, which on average has 2.2 people, they emit about 22 tons of CO2 equivalents in a year's time, which is equal to 2 hectares of Northwest European forest or 3 football pitches, like you see here. So you could imagine that every household would have to have 3 football pitches of trees behind their home. And everyone can imagine that that's impossible. So I did a similar study in 2019 at TU Delft to see how much the emissions were of our university. And here you see actually the outcome of that. And you see 3 main elements, which is energy, travel, and food. And energy, I should say, it's perhaps only half of it, because the electric energy we used was coming from wind turbines, so they had no emissions. But you see that a lot of area needs to be covered by forest, because behind in all these colors which depict forest, you see the municipal border of Delft, which is the city where we are. And it needs 1.5 times the area of Delft to compensate for that. And that's only our university, and that's not the people living there or the companies that are in the city. And moreover, later we found out we could calculate the emissions due to procurement of all sorts of things like materials, furniture, products. And then that element of our emissions was as equally large as you see here. So the actual surface became 3 times as much, meaning 3 times or 2 times as much, and 3 times the area of Delft. So we have about 100,000 tons of CO2 back in 2019 that we had to reduce, and of course partly compensate also. So I was happy actually when in 2021 I became sustainability coordinator of TU Delft, the university basically that was responsible, or you could say the work that was responsible for my largest emissions from flying. So what I did when I started was, bring some goals to the table that we would work on towards 2030, to become carbon neutral, to become circular, climate adaptive, to contribute to quality of life, under which I reside also biodiversity, but also to demonstrate sustainability on the campus, because before that the campus just looked like a collection of offices, and what was happening behind the walls you could never see, except for a tiny part of the campus where there was a field lab. So with that, I started my work, and we focused our attention on education, of course, because we wanted to be sure that the future engineers know exactly what they need to know about sustainability and climate change. We focused on research, another primary activity of our university, and wanted to focus more on sustainable innovations and to show that on the campus. A difficult part is sustainable operations, the way the university functions with all the things we purchase, the way we travel, the way we eat. That's all part of that. And of course, to engage the community, the campus community consisting of students, of course, but also staff, management, supporting staff, visitors, and so on. And of course, we are part of the city of Delft, so we should also expand our influence to that city. How I started was to involve as many people as possible, academics, supporting staff, students, in certain theme teams that we were working on, certain sustainability themes that we addressed. We had a core team of people who were meeting every week, and we had students supporting us from Green to You. And here on the left-hand side in the colored petals, you see the faculties, and on the somewhat boring gray petals are the supporting services on the campus that enable actually education and research in TU Delft. To focus first on education, what we did is, education, of course, is a core activity of the university, because maybe the biggest influence we can have in the world is by sending out engineers that really know how to bring sustainability to the world. But here you see an overview of what we did. And actually, this MOOC that we start next week is part of that ambition. And this webinar, of course, is about the MOOC. To look at research, we wanted to make the campus a living lab, and make ourselves guinea pigs in the research we are doing. And part of it is to stimulate innovations on the campus. And this is one of them that you see here, an aquathermal energy pilot. So extracting heat from the water next to this caterer on the campus, and using that also for research to see what it does, how it influences the water, and maybe if you can ice skate in wintertime, and so on. Sustainable operation, I said that maybe that was the most difficult part, because that refers everything to what happens on the campus, the eco-campus itself, the energy system, construction and renovation, down to, how are we going to communicate this and monitor and report it? And for every theme, we try to combine the action, that we proposed on the campus with research attached to it to learn from it. To give some examples, this is, for instance, an image we made for the energy system of the future. Right now, we are still based largely on natural gas for our heat, and this is to be replaced this year by geothermal heat. It was just opened recently, and a large part of that geothermal heat will actually also service the city of Delft. Well, we have various temperature levels, high temperature, mid temperature level, and low temperature levels that are replacing the high temperature heat of gas. And of course, electricity is also a point. We now use mostly wind power, but we want to create more solar power on the campus itself, that we do that ourselves. And we are even thinking about doing a pilot with thorium energy that we do testing with on the campus. But of course, if we want to look at the energy system, first we need to look at the energy demand by buildings. And here you see an overview of the different buildings from different ages and the amount of energy they use per square meter. And you see there's large differences. And it says basically nothing about the age or the year that it was constructed. Sometimes it's all related to lamps, sometimes it's related to the poor condition of a building. So we also need to think about renovation, especially of large faculty buildings that were mainly built in the 1960s and 70s. So that's an important part of our work here on the campus. And there will be new construction, like you see here, and some of them have been realized already, like Pulse and Echo and Flux. And some are to be built in the coming years. Of course, they need to be super sustainable. That is a prerequisite from my point, because otherwise, if we don't do it with the new constructed buildings, then how are we going to do it with the older ones? One of the projects was also the Eco Campus to improve biodiversity on the campus and quality of life on the campus. And here you see all kinds of projects we did under that name. And one nice example is that we have our own honey coming from the bees on the campus, but we also promote wild bees instead of honeybees. Procurement was very important. I explained that it was half of the emissions of our university. Part of it is to do with building materials, but part of it is also doing with stationery, coffee cups, everything we purchase during a year. So these are the measures that we take to simply bring those emissions down and to be wiser with resources. And very important is the R ladder that you see on the right-hand side, that you first think of if something is really necessary before you go down to other solutions that are lower on the ladder. Food is also an important focus. It was one of the three main emitters before we saw procurement. And my requirements for the food on the campus were simple. It needs to be healthy, tasty, local, seasonal, more vegan, more plant-based, and less animal-based, and if possible, animal-friendly and organic. And we do have a scientific basis for that because the Lancet, you know, that's a scientific journal, a medical journal that had a committee focusing on food for the world. And they came with their planetary health diet, which would feed 9 billion people in the world, but with within the boundaries of the planet. So in a sustainable way that could be maintained and that could be sustained. And here you see actually in a graph, which I funnily say is especially for Americans because it has some typical American food in it, but it only contains 10 to 15% of animal-based products still, of which half of it is dairy, but that's much less than we do now. The content of animal food is much bigger at the moment, but we are working towards this Eat Lancet diet. And it basically means that we have to offer more plant-based food and drinks on the campus and less dairy and less meat and fish. And here you see some three first restaurants or canteens that offer purely vegetarian food on the campus. And important is it because it emits about 50% less carbon emissions. So it's one of the most effective measures that you can take. Simply move away from animal-based food, but not per se completely erasing it. We also look at mobility, and commuter travel is one of that. So we want to get to a fossil-free campus, no emissions anymore, and which is since COVID-19, of course, is easier because we now know that we can telework at home and at many various other places. And it's allowed for TU Delft staff to be 20 to 40% at home. We have online conferences like this one, new parking policy, but very important is also that we are working towards a public transport card for all people, so that public transport use will be promoted. Because on the right-hand side, you see that still a lot of people come by car. Well, and this is the Netherlands, so most people come by bike, which in Delft is also the fastest way to get around. But the ratio of train and buses could be improved. Also, our international travel, and as you perhaps remember, my largest emissions were from flying abroad. There's a new policy saying that you're not allowed to fly within 800 kilometers, but to take the train, bus, or electric car, or to go carpooling. And even on longer distances, like here on the map in yellow or red, are promoted to be done by train or by bus. And it's very exciting actually to find out how you can get there by train or bus, and basically have a means of transport that you can work in. I find that very comforting. And of course, we focus also on student travel that often do excursions to other continents, and we are promoting more European trips and also promoting other means of travel. And we are trying to support them with some financial support, because usually more sustainable travel is more expensive, which is rather strange if you come to think about it. So what have we established? I only showed you a few examples, but we've kept measuring our emissions, and that's only one part of our goals. But what you see here is basically what happened to scope 1, 2, and 3. Those are direct emissions or indirect emissions. And it's 20% in total that we reduced over 5 years while we were growing. So what we see is that actually 23% per FTE, full-time equivalent, is even larger than the 20%. We're not there yet. We need to go further, but it's going in the right direction. And many of our measures we took in the last few years are going to have its effect in the coming years. So where do we stand in regards to our goals? Here you see my estimation of the achievement of the goals. The best goal we've worked towards is the contributing to quality of life and biodiversity. That's really going well. Regarding the carbon, becoming carbon neutral, the geothermal heat this year will lead to an immense improvement of emission reduction. Same goes for circularity measures that we took, climate adaptiveness, that's going to be checked in the coming years for every building. And of course, the other ones are also to be improved. And because of some financial situation, we stopped with the innovation projects on the campus, but that's going to be picked up again this year. If you want to know more about all the projects we are doing and the latest news, then you can have a look at this website, sustainability from the TU Delft website. And now this, based on the work we've done in the last 5 years, as said, I decided to make a MOOCs program that focuses on this sustainability transition of organizations, communities, or people individually. And these are 4 MOOCs, of which the first one starts next week. And here are roughly the kind of people that might be interested for the several MOOCs. So we go from up to low. And the first MOOC is actually suited for everyone because it gives the basic information that people could start with. The second MOOC is more on campus communities, which also could be private companies or public institutions. The third one is going to be about real estate, and the last one about the Scope 3 emissions of operations like travel, food, and procurement. I think these online courses will be interesting for everyone across the world and everyone who wants their own organization to become sustainable and want to take steps towards that. I said we have 4 MOOCs, and here you see the summary again of those 4. And the first one starts next week, the 25th of March, and you can register for that. And later I will show you a QR code. And this particular webinar is about the first one. So it's about the general MOOC that starts everything. And I'll tell you a little bit about this. So it will be open from 25th of March till 3rd of June. The average time that you need is about 2 to 3 hours per module, and there are 4 modules in total. It's self-paced, so you can start when you want and you can finish when you want, and you can do the intermediate work when you want, but you need to do it before the 3rd of June because then we shift to the second MOOC. And it's for free. So especially for the Dutch people, I say gratis, so they understand. Unless you want a certificate, because that costs us some effort to make such a certificate, and we assess your work then. And then you have to pay a few €100, but it's not a lot for what is being offered to you and what you can see. To give an overview of the lectures that you can see within the 3 first modules. So there will be lectures that bring to you the knowledge that you need to address your own sustainability. And there will be some extra films, some mini documentaries. Well, you already saw the Klimaatstrijders, so you can watch it again if you want to. But there will be small interviews with people actually on the floor who make it happen, and to understand how they did that and how you can convince people to go along. And an example of a lecture, a mini lecture, they are typically between 4 and 8 minutes, is here, where you see Puk Winya, my colleague with whom I made this MOOC, addressing the sustainability of organizations. And we have these mini documentaries, and here I'm on the campus interviewing the chair of our Introduction Week organization to understand what he did and how he did that. Module 4 of the first MOOC is actually focusing on the assignment and to build your own action plan. Well, it is a start of an action plan, and you can do that on various levels. You can look at yourself personally or somebody else who wants you to do it. You can look at a community, which can be a family of friends or a student home or a football club or whatever, sports club. Or it can be an organization. It can be a university, a company, a public institution, a non-governmental, not NPO, a non-governmental organization, NGO. This will be done step by step. So we help you to address sustainability goals, to look at aspects of sustainability, what you can change about that, and what then is your action plan, and how to communicate about it. So what you want to do about the communication. And this is an example. This is a part of an Excel sheet that will also be provided in a PDF that you simply can fill out yourself and show how on various aspects, and here you only see energy, but there is all kinds of aspects that you can go through that you have to fill in to pass this MOOC and to get the certificate. Extra and optional is another sheet in Excel where you can actually calculate your carbon emissions and see how your current way of living is doing and what you want to change there. So what you want to change in the way you use energy, water, mobility, or food, for instance. What you will learn after this course, you will be able to address environmental challenges and to have the latest insights into climate change, because that will be one of the lectures. Determine how an organization contributes to these problems. Set up an action plan for yourself or your community or your organization. Appreciate how monitoring and reporting of CO2 is done and how to recognize social engagement and how that can be established in your own circle of influence. This MOOC is actually for everyone who is interested in becoming more sustainable or to work towards a better world. So it can be people at various career levels, and the main body of work is towards professionals, perhaps, that are mid to senior level, but these could be students, it could be teachers, it could be professionals, could be managers, and even board members of organizations to really understand what they need to move towards. But it's also suited for individuals who are simply interested in the possibilities of changing their own life, of that of family, groups, and friends, and various communities. And that brings me to the Q&A session. So I will look towards my my colleagues and see which Q&A was done over my presentation.
Yes, thanks, Andy. We have indeed some questions, so let's go through them. How many people worked on the result of CO reduction? How big were your team?
The core team that I had around me was consisting of 6 to 8 people. And they, what was represented in that core team was somebody who looked at the financial side, some student representative, somebody who looked at education, a communicator, somebody who looked at the real estate and hardware on the campus. What would I forget? I had a right-hand side support from Pugwinia, who did who was a spider in the web of everything that was happening on the campus. Yeah, so basically that. But from that core team, we had different teams, like I explained, on different themes of sustainability. Like energy system or construction and renovation or mobility or food. And each of these teams consisted of academics who were actually specialized in that area, but also supporting staff who are actually doing the work on the campus, non-academics, and students who were interested to be part of that. So all in all, we had about 100, maybe in the end, 200 people who were actively involved to change things on the campus. And that sounds a lot, but on our campus in total, there are about 35,000 people, 28,000 students, and about 7,000 staff.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of people that you need to reach to get a real momentum.
Yeah, it probably depends also on the size of your organization, how many people of course you can have in your
Of course,
team,
if you're a
and
smaller company,
that
then
makes
you can
sense.
do it much easier with a few people. But I recommend to do it not alone, but to have people from different levels of the organization within our team that could secure the the goals that you want to achieve.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. if you go to the next question, that is, what kind of parameters are used to measure contribution to quality of life and other variables?
Yeah, that's a good question. Because there are indeed goals that are difficult to measure. With quality of life, the total amount is difficult to measure, but we have biodiversity, and we had a zero measurement back in 2022 by a company who looked at what is the level of biodiversity at the campus now, and how are we going to improve that. And this is now regularly measured to see if there's an improvement of the biodiversity, and it is actually. So we see an increase of species and of rare plants and animals on the campus. So that's working well. And more difficult is to see how people are satisfied, and then we need to do questionnaires to see how people perceive the current campus. And well, what I can say is that since my own time of studying, the campus has improved immensely, but it can still be improved in various ways, and we're trying our best there. So what I propose to do is to have a questionnaire to see if people indeed experience an improvement on the campus. Now, another thing of the goals, so carbon emissions is easiest to measure, and even that has a challenge, but that's easiest. Then circularity, we can look at the percentage of how many circular materials or products we are using, and there are tools for that to define that. Climate adaptation, I define that as being ready for the climate of 2050 or further. And maybe people should know that right now, if you do a building project, then it basically has to comply with the climate of 30 years ago, or the last 30 years, and that's actually looking backward. I propose to actually be ready for the climate we most probably are going to expect around 2050. And we've had how do you say it, an assessment on the campus to see which places on the campus regarded to that, related to water, to heat, and so on. And now it needs to be done for the buildings separately. So are all the buildings suited for higher temperatures, for more water, for droughts? But maybe also for cold if one of our Gulf Stream stops here.
Good. Questions keep coming in. There was a question. Do you have an advice for those who are passionate about this, but have a small circle of influence, where to start and how to scale up?
Well, as I learned myself, because I started with myself personally, that's the best way to do it, because that's an influence you certainly have on how to change your own life, how to change your own building, the building services that you can adjust, and the things you buy, etc. And I noticed that by presenting that to a large group of students, they were inspired as well to actually do the same. So some of them started to measure their own life and their student homes and so on, to prove that as well. So your circle of influence has a natural way of expanding by communicating about it and by posting on it on social media or presenting it on stage. And of course, by involving more people that are maybe in the beginning within your circle of influence, but later maybe your neighbors. Maybe you can present it to the city where you're living to get whole neighborhoods or the whole city inspired to do the same. And that's basically also the way I did. So I had no influence whatsoever, only to myself. And later, when I became sustainability coordinator, I could influence the whole TU Delft. And by doing that, I was also actually involved in meetings with the city of Delft to change that. So don't be worried about influencing too many people. Start with the people that are closest to you, and then gradually try to influence more.
Yeah. Start small and then build a circle around it.
Yeah, indeed.
Then there is a question. Did you do a bang for the buck analysis of all the measures you implemented and have you explored financial opportunities those measures have enabled? For instance, congestion management services or reduced electricity tariffs.
Oh, that's a whole lot of questions in one question.
Question.
The first one, what was it called? The buck to influence?
The bang for the buck.
Bang for the buck. Yeah, so I translate it as do you get value for the money you invest? Huh? And indeed, we looked at the most effective measures, so the measures that could be changed easily. So that's what you would call the low-hanging fruits that do not cost a lot of money. Then you have the measures that can make a significant change by addressing them. And then it depends on how much money you have to invest. And then you have a differentiation also of money of measures that actually earn themselves back over a due time. And that's easier to convince a management team of. And there are investments that simply mean there's an improvement of the quality, but you don't earn it back. And that's a strategic decision that our executive board needs to make. Do we want to do that or not? And in the beginning, I noticed it was easier to do, but when we ran into financial trouble, those things were actually shifted to a table for later. So yes, it's all about being effective with every penny you invest on sustainability. But to make some starts with investments of changes on the campus, I had to elaborate a financial plan of some projects, of the biggest projects, and to propose that to the executive board and get approval for that. And that's how in the summer of 2022, we got some seed money to really get a push towards sustainability measures on the campus. But that, yeah, maybe that was a luxury event with a lot of support, but it also shows where, yeah, that your money goes where your mouth is. That's also important. And the second part of the question, I don't remember quite.
There was, for instance, congestion management services or reduced electricity tariffs.
Congestion management. If you talk about mobility, there isn't really congestion here. But I don't know if it's congestion related to electricity. We have a shift of policy towards more human-powered vehicles, human-powered transport, electric vehicles, and public transport. And therefore, we need to simply ask fees for parking so that people are demotivated to go by car. But on the positive side, we can use that the parking fees. We can use them for the public transport card, and that's a positive side. So people can easily take public transport when they are in a suited area. And regarding electricity, we haven't experienced yet a lot of congestion problems, but we also studied the potential of photovoltaics on the different buildings. And we are gradually working towards that too, to expand our own production of PV, photovoltaics, so that we are less dependent on supply from outside. And we know from energy companies that they are only happy with that because there's a lot of demand for power from outside cities and campuses. But it needs to be combined with storage facilities. And that's why we're doing one innovation. I didn't illustrate that, but we have one innovation that studies potential to store electricity that was generated by solar into batteries or into hydrogen for use in another season, in winter, for instance.
Okay. Let's see. There we have one question that's about the global conflicts consume vast amounts of materials, resources, and energy, undermining efforts to build a sustainable future.
Mhm.
And then the question is, what would you say to engineers about their role and responsibility in a global context beyond the university level?
Yeah. Well, this is a very valuable question. Thanks for that. First, when I started, some professors with me found that while we were working on sustainability, our pension money, which we had to pay as fees to the pension funds, which would come back after our retirement, they were investing a lot in fossil fuel companies or in dirty industries to get profit money to be used for our pensions. And we didn't want that. This was totally contradictory to what we are working on the campus. So by talking to this pension fund several times, they decided to not invest in fossil fuels anymore. So that was a big win. And that was an example of, yeah, you have to influence basically everything that you are collaborating with. Same with banks. We don't want to work with a bank who actually invests the money that is stored in their bank in the wrong industries or in weapons or in fossil fuel. And quite recently, there was an analysis of banks, and I think we need to change our bank in the university as well. But that's a hard way to walk. And regarding the question about engineers, yeah, I believe that engineers can make the biggest difference in the world. So that's also why I want everyone who leaves TU Delft when they're finished needs to know, yeah, what is basically the knowledge around climate change, about climate action and sustainability, to basically address it in the work afterwards. And we now see that too many students that finish here, so young engineers, that they still go to the companies that offer a lot of money for their wages. And that's something that we really want to change. But maybe it's good to know also that as university, we experience a lot of political events, protests against support of Israel, for instance, or the wars continuing in the planet right now. Once you start this whole process, then everything comes together. So you need to change everything. And that sounds like, whoa, that's a lot. But yeah, there's no other way. If you, yeah, you really need to put your money and your policy where your mouth is. And that means going all the way.
Yeah. We still have a few questions, and we're also almost at the end of the time we had scheduled for this webinar. So I will do a few more as long as we have.
Yep.
How did you anchor this direction in the organization, convince the board to support?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, very good question. I didn't address it, but this is going to be addressed in the MOOC also. What we worked on with the theme teams together is a vision, ambition, and action plan. And especially the later part is most important, the action plan that we presented to the board in the summer of 2021. Then they said, well, we need to get enough support from the campus community. So go and present it to everyone and see if they support it. And so we did that in the half year after. And actually what happened was that the demands from this action plan became more stringent and not softer. And that's when we went back to the executive board for an official decision to make that a policy of the university. And so they said that was decision A, to simply adopt the vision, ambition, action plan. And then they asked for, okay, come with a financial plan for the most important projects. And that we did in the half year after. And then in summer 2022, we got that decision. That was decision B. And well, basically after that, we went to work on all the different projects that were proposed in the plan. And it's only that in the last year, the finances were a little bit more difficult, that we had to select the ones that we really want to do now and maybe some others a bit later. But yeah, that's how it goes. So I think that top-down support is very important. So really try to influence your managers or directors, but also get support from bottom to top, the people who actually do the work, because they are usually a bit reluctant sometimes to change. But if you understand why and which benefits it brings, then they are more likely to support you.
Yeah. Let's see. Did the program scope extend to those CO2 emissions related to material services supplied to TU Delft? And if so, how did you manage to affect those?
Yeah, but within the total CO2 emission monitoring, we are actually involving the CO2 emission of materials and equipment and everything we purchase. So yes, it is not only the operational energy we use, it's especially those, and we found that that's the most important part. And it's also the most difficult part because especially in building projects, we encounter a lot of, let's say, conservative forces that stick with old ways of building that have more carbon emissions. And the latest projects we proposed are actually adopted by more bio-based building materials and energy neutral buildings, circular systems that can be dismantled and so on. So I don't know if that's exactly the question, but that's what we're doing now.
And this question is about the course. Do you have any content in your course about material recovery? So, for example, rare earth elements from e-waste, urban mining, etc.
The first MOOC, not, although it addresses circularity, and we are talking about the element of resources indeed. But if you want to go into critical raw materials and rare earth metals, and for instance, the EU Act on critical raw materials to become independent from elsewhere in the world, or other countries outside Europe that are addressing this, then there are very nice MOOCs also offered on that. So circularity MOOCs that go deeper into that.
Mm-hmm.
We are not specifically looking at the materials and how to reuse them, but we look at it from a point of policy of the university that actually has to do something. But in the third MOOC, we are addressing buildings, construction, and there we are going into circularity more deeply for building materials, for instance, and that's when this will pass.
Yeah, and we do offer courses also on critical materials, right? So if you're interested in that, we can serve you as well.
Yep.
Okay. Well, looking at the time, I think we can close our session of today, and we will have a QR code or a link to the webpage. If you can put that up.
I can put it up. Just go back to the PowerPoint again. Sorry that it moved, but here it is.
And the link is also in the chat available for you. So there you can go to our webpage and learn more about the course itself and register from there. Then thank you, Andy, for giving us an introduction to our online course, Sustainability in Practice. And thanks everyone for joining us in this webinar. Please reach out in case you want to learn more, and if you would like to stay connected, you can follow us on our socials.
Okay, thank you very much for your support, Angelique. And sorry I can't see anyone, but thank you for being here, and I hope you liked it. And otherwise, just let us know.
All right, thank you, and hope to see you next time.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.